44-year-old Phillip Rivers practicing with the Colts in advance of Sunday's game against the Seahawks. Shane Steichen said, you know what, we'll see how this week goes if he gets the start. Coach, chances this works out for the Colts.
It doesn't look good. I mean, I'm a sucker for all those old boxers that go back and fight again. But I'm like watching Tyson versus, what was it, Jake Paul?
Oh, gosh. That was really,
It's not that far off.
Ali and Larry Holmes.
What this could be. Yeah, I watch them all, and then after I watch the fight, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
Why did I watch that? I wish I just kept the memory that I had of the fighter that used to be there. Now, look, I'm cheering for it to work. It has a very Disney, Christmassy feel to it. We could.
You know what most of those Disney Christmas stories have in common? They're make-believe.
Yeah, and that's kind of how this. That's kind of how you're going to have to hope it works out. This is got to be like that Hallmark Christmas movie where somehow he throws 3 touchdowns without getting killed.
It's just called Miracle Wilds.
I'm going to be optimistic.
Wilds is being an idiot.
I'm going to be optimistic and say this. Because you can't help but pull for him with his, as, happy and excited as he is. I mean, it looks great. Coach, and I'm not predicting this. I'm just saying, is it on the board that he could have 1 or 2 good games?
Love it.
Now, he couldn't have a run.
Love it.
But could he go? We seen Joe Flacco, and I get it. Flacco's been playing. But I'm just saying, am I totally writing off the possibility that he might have 1 or 2? He's got a great running back. Okay. He's got good receivers. I am saying it's possible that he plays a good game or 2. I'm telling you which 2 games they have a shot at.
It has to be
Seattle is going to be tough. San Francisco,
he's got to
get through that game. Right, he got to survive it. San Francisco and Jacksonville are the games that he has to win.
Go.
Houston and Seattle are ones.
So here's the graphic I want your response to. Seahawks, because you're very down on the 44-year-old retired quarterback playing against
this team.
Defenses, #1 in pressures and 41 sacks.
I don't think I'd play him.
Listen, I'm going to say something
next week.
That is, that I think is, I don't know if it's socially acceptable or not, what I'm about to say. But I know it's fair, and I know I'm right, and I'll take the arrows.
Edit this out of social.
No, leave it. When it comes to pro athletes, I think a little, what would be called in today's parlance, body shaming, is always okay. You sign up for it. You use your body for your job. So I do that with quarterbacks a lot. I'm a heightist when it comes to quarterbacks. I am we got in a whole war, me and Coach, about Jaden Daniels and whether or not he's too frail. And I don't know if you guys have got any reports from the front on that war, but one side is winning decidedly. And when I look at the picture behind Kevin Wildes of Phillip Rivers' face the last time he played pro football.
And he was old then.
He was old then, and then I see the face of the man we just saw. I'm like, you know what? Looks like a retired rich guy enjoying himself, and he deserves it. It's not the same picture. And then you add to it that he's going to be chased by guys who have been playing football, and it's one of the better teams and better defenses. And it's outdoors in Seattle in that environment. I don't like this at all. And it's not because we do the Bruce thing. I love it. It's because I just don't like it. It's worrisome. And I think it's and I will say that I said this yesterday, I will say it again. If I was the kid, who's the kid who played for him? Riley Leonard. I don't think he has the juice to do this, but he was a full participant in practice yesterday. I want to demand a trade. I'm like, release me outright. Like, if you are, I've been on your team and on your practice squad, and you are putting up Craigslist ads for quarterbacks that this guy replied to, and you'd rather him come in and play.
All valid points. I hope he just dices up.
Thank
listen,
you.
I
That's what I'm
wanna make
saying,
it
Wild.
clear.
We all hope it
No
happens.
one's rooting against it.
You don't think it's on the board? Now, I'm not saying dice
It's on
him
the
up, but
board
one
on
or
a
two
very
big games.
little small
Yeah,
part of the board
yes.
in the right corner.
Very
It could get
small,
ugly too.
but
It could get
It could get
it could get real ugly.
Joe Burrow hosting Lamar and the Ravens on Sunday. He met with the media yesterday, shared some reflections on his career, past and future, perhaps. That was not the normal, looking forward to playing the Ravens, and we got to win every game to get in the playoffs here. Coach, how did that land with you?
It felt very sincere. It feels like Joe Burrow consistently delivers sincere messages, and to me, Joe is a guy that does have to have fun playing football, and as he loves competing and he loves being with his teammates, and there was a lot of talk about him not coming back because the season was out of reach, but he said he wanted to come back because he gets paid to play a child's game. And that to me is his personality, where some guy's whole identity is football. That doesn't strike me as being Joe's identity. That football is something he loves and is passionate about, but it's not all of who he is. And he's at the point now where he's made $177 million, so it's not going to be about the money. It doesn't seem like he lives that extravagantly. And even
He did think about buying that Batmobile.
No, he does.
But he didn't. He ended up not buying it.
But even
Used to dress extravagant.
yeah, like
Those are comp.
even those things. The Batmobile was a little bit, but that also tells you a
than
lot
the
about his
Batmobile.
personality
Yeah.
too. He's willing to be who he is, and part of who he is someone who does love playing the game, and similar to Andrew Luck, who was incredibly talented. When Andrew Luck decided that this was not what he wanted to control his life, and it was becoming detrimental to him as opposed to just being something positive, he was willing to walk away.
I'm going to bring a little optimism from what you said earlier, Coach, because if we just go back a few weeks, he was like, yeah, of course I'm playing, and, this is what I do. If I'm healthy, I'm playing. I'm not even thinking about not playing.
And was jubilant, Brew.
Yeah.
After beating the Ravens, they're all eating the turducken and doing the whole thing on the field.
So that's why, hopefully, because obviously none of us, even if you're not a Bengals fan, obviously you don't want to see him retire. So maybe this is just a reaction to, we got 9 losses. I know there's a smidgen of a chance, but we're basically out of it, and that's not fun. We're going to miss the playoffs for the 3rd straight year. I did work my tail off for 2 months to get back here and have a shot at making the playoffs, and we're not. I mean, he didn't say all this, but this might be what he's thinking, and we're not going to have a chance. I hope that is what this is a reaction to, just the current situation. I didn't play well last week, sure, at first, but then I threw those 2 bad interceptions that cost us a game. So I hope that's what it is, because, again, just a few weeks ago, he was over the moon with joy about to play football again, and then, like you said, after they beat the Ravens. So I hope that's what it is.
What was the lead in question to this? Like, what was?
That's why I watched it, Coach. It was at first I thought he did, like, at first I was a little more optimistic because of the way he kind of led into it. But then later on, that's when he started talking about, I've been through more than your average bear, and it's painful, and things like that. So
I don't think there is a optimistic way to look at this. Doesn't mean I think he's like decided, okay, I'm retiring. That's not what I'm saying. But when a guy who's not yet 30, who's in year 6, who clearly, it's not as if because of injuries, he's like, man, I'm not the player I once was.
Yeah.
Because that can be really mentally tough on guys. Yeah. But he is bounced. Every time he comes back from the injuries, whatever they are, he plays great. I know he made the mistakes against Buffalo, but he didn't look like a guy like, he's not the same quarterback. A guy who's not 30, who's in year 6, says, if I want to keep doing this, is a shocking thing. Like, it's truly shocking in a way that it'd be shocking if Dak said it. Dak's been in the league twice as long. If Dak came out and said, if I'm going to keep playing, we'd be like, what? And so what came to me, Andrew Luck, yes. The other thing that came to me, though, Coach, was Carson Palmer, who in year 8, after being the number 1 pick with the Bengals, said via either his agent or his brother, I don't remember, or that person said on his behalf, yeah, he's not having fun. And if you don't trade him, he's retiring. And Mike Brown called his bluff kind of and didn't trade him. He did retire. They drafted Andy Dalton. And then at the deadline, they traded him to the Raiders. Yep. And then he played a long time. He played in the 2015 NFC Championship game. And this was in so go ahead.
Yeah, I remember that time. But this to me feels more Andrew Luck than Carson Palmer. Like, I thought Carson Palmer was sick of the Bengals.
See, that's what I'm worried about is this, that what's not fun for him is the losing.
But I didn't see the Bengals have the same give with the Carson Palmer era that they have now. They weren't paying guys the way that they're paying guys now. They weren't extending themselves organizationally like the way they have with Joe Burrow. And Carson got to that point where he's like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to go and play and try to win when I know every year the deck is stacked against us because we won't spend any money. They're not going crazy in terms of compared to other organizations, but they are willing to extend themselves ways that they never have before.
They are extending themselves, but it's also every offseason there's a different protracted contract dispute. You're right, he wanted Chase and Higgins, but he also wanted Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, Dallas has contract disputes every offseason too.
Yeah, no, that's true. So if it is not about retirement and it is about being sick of the Bengals, can I run some? First of all, let me ask you this. 3 firsts and 3 seconds. Is that, in your opinion, I know that's an insane price, but I know how highly you think of Burrow. If you're the Minnesota Vikings, would you be willing to give that up to get Joe Burrow?
Yeah, but it depends on which Joe Burrow I'm getting. So I would want to sit down with him, and if he's this close to retiring because he feels that he doesn't love football anymore, giving up 10 firsts and like whatever you give up, giving up a 7th rounder isn't going to be great if he's not going to play for you.
Would you also, as a team wanting him, would you also be concerned, not that you wouldn't trade for him, but be concerned about his injury history? Because it's not just the getting hit because of poor pass protection, appendectomy, the wrist sprain, the strained calf that he hurt in practice, rolling out. He seems to be a little bit injury prone.
Yeah, it's all of those things, but to me, it's more about why are you leaving the place that you're at? Like, how did you get to this point? And if it is more Carson Palmer, which I felt was, I am done with the Cincinnati Bengals. That's one thing. You can work with that if you're another organization. If it's Andrew Luck, where it's I'm done with football. I've got enough money. I've achieved as much as I want to achieve. I'm comfortable with moving on to the next phase of my life. Then no trade is really going to make sense because you're not going to convince that guy to love football again. So. And he's 2 hours from home or an hour and 30 minutes from home right now. It's about as good from a family perspective as you're going to get.
Jalen Hurts in a 1st-round pick for Joe Burrow. Who says no?
Yeah, but is he going to love football in Philadelphia?
If just walk down the path of and again, it's an assumption. What he's upset about is my first 2 years, full years, I played in a Super Bowl, I played in a conference championship game, and since then, I haven't been back to the playoffs, and you know what? I'm looking at my team, and it doesn't seem like we're that close. Like, it doesn't, I don't have real reason to believe next year, all of a sudden, we're about to be as good as we were right when I got here. But
a little bit of that, to me, then you're being selfish because it's partly your fault, and they've done everything they can to help you, paying receivers, paying tight ends, paying offensive linemen, extending themselves ways, own a little bit of that if that's your attitude.
He's not blameless. He is not.
No, if that's your attitude, that's a totally
But you think it's more about injury than about...
I think it's more about, he just might be tired.
Michigan's looking for a new coach. Yesterday, Sherrone Moore was fired for an inappropriate relationship. He was also arrested last night. That's a developing legal story. For the sake of this conversation, we're going to focus on what's next for the Michigan football program. And joining us now is Bruce Feldman. Bruce, thanks for joining us. Can you give us a sense of the challenges Michigan is up against with the timing of trying to find a new coach and how that works with the portal and NIL and everything?
Yeah, it is as you said, the timing is tricky because we've already had a chaotic coaching carousel. Usually it doesn't wrap up until like late December. This one was already wrapped up basically with Penn State hiring Matt Campbell, who, by the way, would have been a probably good option for Michigan had this happened like a week and a half ago. So right now they're up against it. They're playing Texas in a bowl game at the end of the month. As you said, you know, early signing day happened last Wednesday, and now they're trying to figure out what direction do they go here? Because a lot of candidates who either were in the mix for Penn State or LSU or Florida or Auburn, they've either decided to stay or re-up, or they've landed in new jobs. So there aren't a lot of candidates out there that I think Michigan would be that interested in the first place. I think there's two that could be in play, and the timing is interesting here. One is Kalen DeBoer, the head coach at Alabama. He's a guy who had coached in the Big Ten as an offense coordinator at Indiana. He's a Midwest guy. He actually lost to Michigan in the national title game when he was a head coach at Washington. Really good offensive coach. Has had up and down first 2 years replacing Nick Saban. Yeah. Alabama struggled late in the season, found a way in the playoff. Now they're going to be on the road at Oklahoma later next week in the first round. If they lose that game, I think there will be a lot of pressure on Kalen DeBoer, a lot more pressure. And I think there'll be a lot of frustration. And everything I had heard from people close to DeBoer was that he's very comfortable there. He likes, you know, his family likes it there. He has no intentions of leaving. You know, Penn State people were hoping he would be in the mix. He was never in the mix. A week from now, if they lose that game and there's even more pressure on him, it wouldn't surprise me if he might be open to hearing Michigan's call. If not, I think Jed Fish, the head coach at Washington, a former Jim Harbaugh assistant at Michigan, who did a really, really good job taking over Arizona. Arizona was awful when he got it. By year 3, they finished 11th in the country. He's had 2 pretty good years building back Washington. I could see Jed Fish listening. I think there's a bunch of people at Michigan who still really like Jed Fish and would hope that he might be the answer. And again, really good offensive coach. I think either of these guys would be a big upgrade for what Michigan just had, especially offensively.
Bruce, before we continue to look forward, the timing of this obviously puts Michigan behind the 8 ball from finding the next head coach, but it also was, the timing was post-signing day, and there has since been a lot of what I would call, I mean, it's reporting, that Michigan was aware of a potential issue far earlier than yesterday and slow-rolled this. Is there, in your opinion, any validity to the idea that they knew a problem was coming to a head, but they wanted to make sure we got through signing day before making this move?
Nick, on my understanding of this, because this had been a rumor for a while, I felt like I first heard about it about 2 months ago. Now, my understanding was they had investigated it and couldn't come up with anything concrete to take action. Now, that, from what we've heard at The Athletic, has all changed in the last, 2 days when some more information from someone else came forward, and then they felt like they could take action and fire him for cause. So I don't know if people on the outside are looking at it going, whoa, that's convenient timing. At the same point, there was signing day, but, when you have a coaching change, the portal is basically back open up for these guys. So I'm not sure, I get why people are suspicious, but from what we've heard, it was just they got more information to be able to take action on Sherrone Moore.
Bruce, with the transfer portal, coaches moving, I mean, it's a wild time in college football. If Kalen DeBoer, let's just say hypothetically, went to Michigan, I've heard people say, would Lane Kiffin leave LSU before coaching the game and go to Alabama? There's even been people throwing out Matt Campbell, maybe. Does he second think, his chance going to Penn State and maybe go to Michigan? Do you think any of that is actually possible?
I don't think on the Matt Campbell side, I know he's really developed a connection with the president there and the leadership of Penn State. I don't think he backs out of them on them. As far as Lane possibly going to Alabama, from everything I'd heard from people high up at Alabama, they wouldn't touch Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin definitely has some baggage, and I think there's a bunch of people in the SEC who know it, and I do not think I've asked about this in the past. I don't think Alabama is one of the few schools that I know of that for certain doesn't want any part of Lane Kiffin.
Okay.
All right, so Bruce, the other Big Ten names, right? So Michigan's behind Ohio State, obviously, this year, behind Indiana, behind Oregon. So there's some thought where like, hey, why don't we roll out a big check and just get a no from, this is what Joel Klatt said on his spot, go and get a no from Dan Lanning, get a no from Cignetti. Do you think those could possibly be yeses if the money is big enough, or if there's any, like, Cignetti obviously wants to, he might win, but is the M enough of a magnet to get those guys to make a move?
I don't think so. And in Cignetti's case, I'm not sure why you would leave. You just won the Big Ten. You did something that very few people, no one probably thought that he could do. He not only beat Oregon at Oregon, then he beat Ohio State in the Big Ten title game. Dan Lanning's turned down a bunch of, would you be interested in those kind of questions? I also don't think the timing is good for that because, you got a team, I think both of these teams have legit chances to win the national title, not just win a game here or there. I just think that, Lane Kiffin can make these moves and bail out on a team. I don't get the impression these guys would do that. A team that's like going to host a playoff game or have a chance to win. I feel like Oregon and Indiana have better chances also to win the playoff than Ole Miss did. Neither guy strikes me as a guy who would just bail on these teams, at the 23rd hour or whatever the analogy of that expression is.
Bruce, I don't want to ask what's a dumb question, but in modern college football, I don't know the answer to this. How good of a job is Michigan?
Good question.
It is a good question. You know what? It is the bluest of blue bloods. Like back in the day, and I'm talking about probably when Chris and I were growing up, it was Michigan and Notre Dame and USC, and it was probably a top 3-4 job. It's still close to that. Now, whether you want to put in Alabama and Texas in there, Jim Harbaugh just won a national title there. You have gobs of money. You have one of the richest men in the world who has awareness of college sports, is an alum or has a connection to alums and is willing to spend money. So I think in that regard, it's a really good job. I would still say it's like a top 5 job.
Wow.
But I think what makes it a little complicated is now I think the AD's in some hot water. I think there's some pressure internally on this. You're taking over like a messy situation from Sherrone Moore where it felt like they were backsliding. I mean, but honestly, when almost any job comes open in college football, you're going to be taking it where it's kind of bruised and trying to be put back together a little bit. But in terms of like status-wise, it's about as big a job. I mean, I think Ohio State is probably a slightly better job because there's more resources there right now and there's better alignment. But it's close, and I definitely would say it's like a top 5 or 6 job.
Bruce, I know this is a strange situation with Sherrone Moore, but, Michigan's obviously in danger of maybe losing some kids in the transfer portal or kids that, committed to Michigan are having second thoughts, to say the least. Do you think, you couple that with Lane Kiffin's situation at Ole Miss, do you think there's any legitimate chance that the NCAA changes the calendar and maybe moves signing day back, a few weeks or months? Because it's not like you have to have the kids commit in January. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's, you got to keep in mind the coaches, the AFCA really got behind this calendar. I know that Nick Saban and a bunch of other coaches have been, kind of talking about their frustration with it. But there's not a lot of easy answers for this because they didn't want signing day back in early February where it was forever. And then they kind of moved to this early signing period. Then the transfer portal came up. The Big Ten coaches wanted it one time. The SEC coaches wanted it kind of more into this window. And the season got longer because now we have conference title games. The playoff is like butting up into the NFL calendar, which is one calendar. If you guys know TV ratings better than me, that is one battle they do not want to fight with the NFL. So it's really complicated. I think it's not it's the NCAA's call, but it's really the coaches, AFCA's call about, and the leadership of the CFP, what they can handle. And there's no easy answers. And as you guys have seen with the CFP, there's just a lot of dysfunction in this sport.
Man. All right, Bruce. Well, thank you very much for making some time. Happy holidays. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Bruce.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me,
Thank you,
guys.
Bruce.
See you
All right,
guys.
man. Yep.
See ya.
Later.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.